Kadosh Boker Or, Shevuot Masechet Shevuot Daf Zayin Amud Aleph 17a1. Says the Gemara as follows. We were just by the Teiku, if you remember, and now we're going to start the new Gemara on the second line where it says by Rava. Rava comes and he asks the following question: Tala atzmo ba'avir azara mahu. What happens right now if after a person was nitma ba'azara, he comes and he jumps in mid-air? Now he's not actually touching the floor of the Gemara. So what's the halacha? Ki gemire shehiyah. When do we say that there's a concept of shehiyah? Shehiyah means that he's waiting. You remember we said that if a person waits and he's staying in the Bet HaMikdash, that he's going to be chayav. So he says, do we say that shehiyah is the bat hashtachava, the la bat hashtachava la gemire, but we didn't learn if it's not going to be bat hashtachava, or dilmar maybe bifnim shehiyah gemire, or maybe it has to be that you're waiting on the inside. But lo shna de bat ishtachava, lo shna de lav bat ishtachava. That there's no difference between ishtachava or not ishtachava. So answers the Gemara, teiku. Right? We don't have an answer. By Ravashni, the next question. What happens if a person comes and he's mitameh atzmo b'mezid? What does that mean, mitameh atzmo b'mezid? He comes and he does it purposely. So now the question is, what is the halacha? Be'ones kimid shehiyah. Do we only learn the concept by ones that there's an avira to do shehiyah, and b'mezid lo gemina shehiyah, and by mezid, right? There's no shehiyah. So therefore, even if there was no shehiyah whatsoever, he would still be chayav. Or dilmar maybe bifnim gemina shehiyah, or maybe we're going to say that they only accepted upon themselves the halacha to do with inside. Right? Lo shna be'ones, lo shna be'mezid. There's no difference in ones or mezid. Meaning, if you stayed enough time to do shehiyah on the inside, you're chayav. And if you weren't enough time on the shehiyah on the inside, you're not going to be chayav. Again, answers the Gemara. Teiku. Again, we don't have an answer. So this is the second one. Yes, exactly. Next question. By Ravashi. Ravashi comes and he asks the question now. Nazir bekever. A nazir that is not allowed to become tameh to a met. Yeah, actually, my daughter brought down an incredible Rabbi Yonatan Eibishitz. Rabbi Yonatan Eibishitz came and he says, why is it? What's the connection between the end of Parashat Kedoshim and the beginning of Parashat Emor? The end of Parashat Kedoshim says about learning witchcraft, about knowing the future through doing black magic, right? And then the beginning of Parashat Emor speaks about the Kohanim, right? Not becoming Tamemet. So Rabbi Yonatan Eibishitz says an incredible yesod. And he says like this, he says, what's the difference between the Goyim and the Jews? The Goyim, right? They go and they try to find out the future from the Metim. That's how they try to find out the future. The Jews, we go to the Kohanim, which is basically the Urim v'Tumim, to find out the future. He says, if a Kohen would be able to become Tameh Met, so then we might think that the Kohen did the same thing. He went to the cemetery, he tried to find out the future, and then he's teaching us what's going to be the future. Because of that, a Kohen is asur to become Tameh Met in order to understand that it only 100% comes from Hashem, and it doesn't come from,
because I'm learning
right, from another thing. By Ravashi. So Ravashi now is going to ask the following question. Nazir bekever. A Nazir that is asur to become Tamemet. That he's standing on a kever. By shehiyah lemalkut or eno tzarich. Does he need that? So basically here we're talking about it obviously was be'ones. So for example, he went into a kever, into a bet HaKvarot with a shedet migdal, you know, like one of these boxes, right? So he went into the kever like that, and all of a sudden somebody came and he broke, let's say, the bottom of the floor, and now he's standing on a kever. So does he need shehiyah? Again, remember, shehiyah means, does he need to stay there the amount of time, a certain amount of time, in order to get lashes? Or eno tzarich? Remember, the shiur of the amount of time that we were talking about was shishtachavaya, right? Bowing down. Now we said bowing down to the inside, to the outside. We started speaking about all these things. So, says the Gemara, bifnim gemina shehiyah, bachutz lo gemina shehiyah. Do we only say that the entire concept of shehiyah was only to do with the hazara, not stam to do with the bet HaKvarot, right? or Dilma, or maybe and therefore he should be chayav even immediately. He's on the kevet. He's on the kevet. Or Dilma, or maybe be'ones kimile shaviyah, that it's only be'ones lo shna bifnim lo shna bibachutz. There's no difference bifnim or mibachutz. What does the Gemara answer? Teiku. Again, we don't have an answer. Yeah, teiku. Fine. Next, 2 dots. Yeah. Balo baruka hayav bakitzara patur. What happens if a person becomes tameh in the azara and he leaves the longer exit, meaning the further away exit? He had to use the shortest exit, right, possible, right? And many times they tell you on the plane, it could be behind you, right? Which means your obligation is to go through the shortest exit. Why? You just became tameh. So what are you coming now looking for an exit all the way on the end? Go to the shortest exit. So if a person went to the aruka, he's going to be chayav a korban. If he went to the kitzara and the shorter one, he's going to be patur from a korban. So Amar Rava says, kitzara she'amru, when we say that now that it's kitzara, the shorter one, afilu ekev betzad gudal, va'afilu kol hayom kulo, right? It says it's even if it's going to be that you're going slowly, and even if you're going, right, the entire day, right? Which means that mamash, you were going very, very slowly. You know what ekev betzad gudal is? You know, when you're doing the amidah, when you're going 3 steps back, you go ekev betzad gudal, meaning that mamash, you're taking steps like this. Usually when a person takes a step, there's a distance between the feet. Right now, it says that you shouldn't take too big of a distance between the feet, but it depends how tall you are, obviously, right? Your legs and everything, right? But basically, ekev mitzad gudal is mamash like this. So you've got the ekev, and then you have the gudal over here. That's called ekev mitzad gudal. So he says, and if it's going to be even kol hayom kulo. So now, when you come and you tell me b'ksara patur and baruka chayav, are you going to tell me now the mamash that you're going very, very slow, or even you're going the entire day to get out? Yeah, that's what I would actually come and understand from what we just said in the Mishnah. So by Rava, so Rava comes and he says, Sheyot ma'u starfu. Are we going to say that Sheyot ktsarot are going to be mitzaref for yishtachava? Meaning, let's say he was going out through the derech ketzara, and he stopped a bit, right? And then he continues, right? And then again he stops a bit, and he continues. Is every single shehiyah in between mitzaref to become one big shehiyah, and then you're going to be chayav, or not? Yeah? So for example, let's say I'm going to tell you that you need to wait. You need to wait. Let's say I'm just going to give you an example. 30 seconds. Yeah? So he says, you need to wait 30 seconds. Yeah? So now, what happens if in between you waited 5 seconds each? So you take one step, 5 seconds, and then you continue. Another step, 5 seconds. Now, sachakol, the total, you had 1.5 minutes. You didn't even have 30 seconds, but you didn't do it in one shot, right? You know, it was in between. So the question, do we say is that are they going to be mitzaref or not? So v'tiv shalom today. So why don't we come and we should be poshet the she'ela? We should answer the she'ela. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he says are you going to come and you're going to try to say that you should be able to answer the what we just said, but even if it's going to be the entire day? So says the Gemara, Hatam, when we were talking about the case of Rava, was Bidulo Shaha, it was only, you didn't wait at all. The only thing is, you were walking, but just like a turtle. Meaning, when we just said Amar Rava, Rava says, there you didn't stop at all. But you were walking like a turtle. Meaning you were always walking. You were on the move. But you were just very, 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 very slow. I don't know if you've ever seen certain people that come and they're like very slow. You watch them and mamash, slow motion. Exactly, slow motion. But they never talk. They never stop. They never stop, right? But it's slow motion. So that's one. That's the Rava, right? That's the Rava. Here, our question is that you weren't doing slow motion, but you were stopping in between. You were stopping in between. Yeah? So, ba mine Abaye meraba. So Abaye comes and he asks from Rabbi. Balo baruka shiur kitzara mahu. What happens right now, right, if he goes to the aruka, right? But he went running. And the long way, but when he went to the long way, he was running and the same way that it would have taken the short way. That's the question. Shiur gemire. Is it a shiur? V'chibalo baruka shiur k'tzera patur. Or dilma davka gemire baruka chayav k'tzera patura. Meaning like this. Is it a time issue? Why is it that I tell you have to go to the shortest exit? Because it's a time issue. So if it's going to be a time issue, what happens if I flew, right? I'm Baba Haki running the 100-meter sprint, and I fly. I went through the long way. But for a normal person, that would have taken the short way. So is it the fact that I went to the long way, I'm chayav, because at the end of the day, I went for the long way? Or is it a time issue? Now, I did the time of the long way, right, in the short way. So therefore, I should be patur. That's the question. So Elmaleh comes and he answers him. Lo nitzna aruka lidachot etzlo. The Yisur Yitzia of the aruka is not meant to be pushed off. And therefore, even if you went bimrutza, running, you're going to be chayav. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Meaning that even if you're running, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're running. You went on the long way. That was a mistake. You shouldn't have gone the long way. Right? So says the Gemara Malay, comes and he says, Im lo nitzna aruka lidachot etzlo. So Rava comes and he says, Abai, no, I'm sorry. It's not going to be pushed off, which means I don't care if you're running like Superman to get out of there. It doesn't matter. The second that you went derech aruka, you went the long way, that's it. You're in trouble. Yeah, if you went in the long way, you're in trouble, Richard. Remember, you went the long way. Long way, you get in trouble. You get lashes, okay? By the way, you should know, the musar of the day is that a person, right, should always understand what it is the derech tzara and derech aruka. Meaning, right, a person should always understand what is the importance of time. Yeah? Always remember that. Fine? Matkifla Rabbi Zera, Asa Rabbi Zera. Ela de kaimalan tameh sheshimesh b'mita. We're talking about right now what happens if a kohen tameh, that he was oved avodah in the Bet HaMikdash, he's going to be chayav, right? Mita bide shamayim. So, what is the case where you have a kohen that he was shimesh in the Bet HaMikdash, that he's going to be chayav mita bide shamayim? If it was that he was not shoheh at all, sorry, so hechi avid avodah. How did he do the avodah? Libono shel olam. I'm saying if he's doing the avodah is going to take him much longer than shiur sheyah. Ve'idishaha, if it was he was there, so then he's going to be bar karet. Right? Why? Because karet is more stricter than mita bidei shamayim. Karet, many times even his children could actually come and become punished. Not by mita bidei shamayim. So the question is, right? Some people say also that karet is even before, because karet could be the age of even 50 and 60, right? Mita bidei shamayim is 60 or 70, so it's even like it's a higher level, obviously. Which one? Either or, but that's what we're saying. But he says that karet could even be 50 according to some shittot. That's what it says in the footnotes. It says here, some people say that karet could be 50 or 60, velo shishim bichlal, and mita bidei shamayim is 60. That's brought down in Moed Katan, the Tosafot, but the Yerushalmi says no. Okay, there's a whole, again, there's machlokot. Yeah. Some people say that karet is mechaperet al Hashem mechato bilvad, right? But if it's not, then he gets yisurim even after mita. Mita b'dei shamayim is mechaperet be'atzma, even if you didn't do teshuvah. So again, there's a lot of differences between mita b'dei shamayim and karet. So it could be it's karet. Yeah. So doesn't matter. It could be karet, obviously. Yeah. Anything which is before. No, that's what we're saying. We're saying that if a person didn't do teshuvah and they just got karet, it could be that they're going to get yisurim even after death, right? But by mita b'dei shamayim, no. Once that means mita b'dei shamayim is a lower level. Remember, you have the arba mitot bedin. After the 4 death penalties of bedin, you have karet, and after karet, you have mita b'dei shamayim. It goes in levels, right, of stringencies. So here, what we're saying is that a person comes and he has, right, that if you're going to tell me that if somebody is going to be a kohen tameh sheshimesh, he's going to be chayav mita b'dei shamayim, here he has karet, because he's tameh, and he's in the Bet HaMikdash, and he knows about it. So either shaha bar karetu. So if you're going to tell me that it's a shiur, mashkachala, so then I can find it, the anis nafshe b'ktsara ve'avad avodah, which means that he was an asatzmo, and he was running like crazy after he did the avodah. So therefore, even though the avodah itself was the shiur ishtachava, if he was able to run the time that it took from the time that he became tameh until he goes out, and he was able to do it, he's going to be patur from karet because he wasn't shaha yoter me'azman mutar. But chayav miteh b'shamayim, he was, because at the end of the day he was tameh, and he did the service in the Bet Hamikdash. Yudzayin Mubet. Ela Marta, but if you're going to tell me davka gemire, which means just like Rabbi said, the chachamim were mekabel that the second that you went and you did it, even if you went running like crazy, you should have gone derech haktzara. And the fact that you went derech harukah in itself, you're already going to be chayav. So what's the case then? So answers the Gemara. Amar Abaye says, "My kushya, what's the question? Mashkachala, we find it. You go on, for example, bak tzara ve'afach betzinura. What happens right now if you went in the shorter one, right? And what happened is that on the way that he's going out, he already had a mazleg, like like one of those long prongs. What? Yes, but obviously we're talking about the long ones, right? The ones that you use for a barbecue. It's like tongs or whatever it is that you have. So what happens is that when you're having this, you went and you touched one of the pieces of meat that were on the maracha, and you flipped it from the top to the bottom or the other way around. So, and like Ravuna, because says Ravuna, zar shafach betzinora chayav mita. He's chayav mita b'deshamayim, because he's a zar, he's a stranger. So therefore, the fact that he's coming and he's doing that even without waiting at all, mamash, he's running out, and on the way out, he just flips, right, the piece of meat over there. So it could be that he was going to be oved an avodah, which is chayav mita b'deshamayim, but he wasn't chayav karet because he didn't wait. He didn't stall in the azara. Okay? Lo avanti. Gufa, we say, Amar Ravuna says, Zar she'afach betzinora hayav mita, a stranger. Remember here, a stranger is a non-Kohen, that he comes and he's me'afech betzinora, so he took the prongs and he put the tongues or whatever it is, and he took from the bottom to the top, at the top to the bottom. So that's going to be chayav mita. Hechidami, what's the case? Idlo afach la miakle. He says if he didn't turn it around, so therefore it's not going to be mitakel on the fire. So pshita, right? So then obviously he says he's going to be chayav mita because it was an avodah zarah. Meaning, if it was that if you wouldn't have turned it around, it wouldn't have been consumed. So it's pashut. But if it would have been that anyway, it would have been mitakel. Maya kavid, what did he do? Yeah, what did he do? You understand what we're talking about? One more time.
He hastened the.
Yes, exactly. Meaning like this: if I come and I leave something on the fire, and it's gonna burn anyway, so therefore the fact that I came and I turned it around, I didn't really do anything. You understand? Because one second, right? I didn't do anything. Why? Because anyway, it would have been consumed. Yeah, it would have been done anyway. Now, if you're gonna tell me that it wouldn't have been consumed, so obviously you're gonna be chayav, because that means I actually did it, right? So, right, the Gemara answers Richard was cheating because he went ahead, right?
I didn't look.
Oh, you didn't look. Okay, so kol hakavod, the first time. Yeah, so the first time that he didn't look, right? So he says, lo tzricha, ti lo afach behu miakle betarte she'ah, vehashta miakle bechad she'ah. It's a very simple answer. He says, it's a question of time. Meaning you're right. Anyway, it would have been consumed. But the time difference is different. Meaning when you come and you put, right, a piece of meat on the fire, right, it could be that the one which is on the bottom of the fire, right, will get a little bit more well done, but the top part will get well done, right? Meaning it will get cooked, right? It will get cooked, but just it will take longer, right? Meaning the part which is closest to the fire will get done better. Now that's why you have to know how to do it. That you try to get the bottom, and then you flip it, and once you flip it, now the bottom part is also meaning the top is going to become the bottom become the part top. Yes. So therefore, what we're trying to say here is that beforehand, right, it would have cooked, let's say, in 2 hours. And now the fact that the Kohen did this, or the Zara did this, the stranger did this, it's going to be, because remember, we're talking about the Kohen that became Tameh, right? Or the Zar, right? So talking about now that he flipped it, now it's going to be 1 hour, right? So if you bring something closer to doing an avodah, that in itself is an avodah. Meaning some people think that you have to do the finishing job. And sometimes you can't always do the finishing job. So again, the musar of today is that even the fact that you come closer to Hashem, the effort that you came closer, even if you don't finish the job, because you can't always finish the job, but any type of kru ve'avodah, that in itself is called an avodah. Your avodah is a service. I can't finish the job, Rabbi. Doesn't matter. You do your part. You became closer. You came closer, right? That in itself is already called an avodah. Yes? Amar Rav Oshaya, says Rav Oshaya, right? Baina de ema milta, umistafina mechavraya. I want to say something, right? But I'm afraid of the friends that they are going to go against me. So this is what I want to say. Yeah, if a person is going to go into a house of tzaraat, right? That's called nega, right? Nega tzaraat. So bet minuga is a house that has tzaraat, derech achurav, right? Backwards. Vafilu kulo chutz mechotamo. Even if his entire body went into the house, except for his nose, right? That means his nose is outside. What?
Yeah, you walk backwards.
Yeah. So he says he's going to be tahor. Tichtiv, because it says in the pasuk, "Va'ba'al habayit yitma derech biyah asra Torah." The Torah only prohibited you when you come derech biyah, which is the normal way of coming inside, not which is with alapanim. Yeah. So he says umistafina mechavraya, because now I'm afraid of the friends, because they're going to ask me, if so, kulonami. Meaning, what did he say? He wanted to say that imagine a person's coming inside, but he's walking backwards. Now, when he walks backwards, the entire body is inside the door, inside of the house, except for his nose. He had a long nose. Yeah?
He's Jewish.
Yeah. So therefore, you know what I heard once? A person has a long nose, that means that he puts his nose in everything. Yeah? So what happens is, right?
You heard that, Rick?
He says as follows. Yeah. So he says, what happens is that, right? He's coming backwards. His nose is outside. Since his nose is outside, he doesn't become tameh. Why? It says, kol haba'al habayit, if you come into the house, derech biyah asra Torah, meaning the Torah told you become tameh when you go into a house of tzaraat. When you come into the house, how do you come into a house? Forwards, not backwards. When was the last time you walked into your house backwards? Right? They're going to say, hey, you're backwards. Yeah. What? I got lost. I didn't understand, but it's okay. Right? Okay. Yeah, I know.
You don't remember that?
No. Okay. So he comes and he says like this. Right? Therefore, what happens is that we have to actually understand that he says, if you come into the house backwards, you're going to be patur. Why? Because of the nose. Ask the friend. He says, my friends could ask me. So even if the entire body came in backwards. Because if you're going to tell me that the entire inyan is that when you go into the house normally, you go into the house face first, not backwards. So even if the entire body came into the house backwards, you should also be patur. You should also be tahor. You shouldn't be tameh. So Amar Rava comes and he says, Kulo lo gara mikelim shababayit. He says, no, you know what you could answer? If the entire body came into the house, it's not any worse than kelim that was already in the house before the tzaraat came. That these kelim are going to be tamim even though they didn't come into the house. The fact that the entire body is in the house, it's like the entire keli is in the house, the utensil. And therefore, right? That we don't want everything that's going to be in the house to become tameh. So therefore, that's how to answer up against his friends. Meaning, one more time, he wanted to say a chidush, but he was afraid of his friends. What was a chidush? The guy comes and he comes inside to the house of the metzorah backwards, but his nose is outside, so he's not going to become tameh. Why? It says in the pasuk, "Ve'haba'al habayit yitma." Only the one that comes into the house is going to be tameh. How do you come into the house? Face first. The fact that he came backwards, he's going to be tahor. So he says, you know, I'm afraid to say this chidush because my friends are going to ask me. So why did you say that the entire body came in except for the nose? Even if the entire body comes inside, he should also be tahor because he came in the wrong way. He didn't come in a normal way. So the answer is Rava, you could answer up your friends. Why? You know when you come your entire body into the house, you're not any worse than a keli. If you left the kelim inside a house of a minugah, inside a house of tzaraat, because you know that before they paskin, right, about the tzaraat, they tell you to retrieve everything, to take everything out of the house, empty out the house. When the Kohen once the Kohen comes and he says, Tameh, Kaddish. So what do? Right? They make sure that the second that they suspect that there's going to be tzaraat, ufinu et habayit. Bechol asher babayit. Everything that's in the house, take it out. Because the second the Kohen is going to say Tameh, Kaddish. So therefore you make sure you take everything out. Yeah? 100%. It's only spiritual. It's not medical. And that's why they say also that from there we learn a Torah chas al mamonan shel Israel. That the Torah is chas. It has mercy on the money of Israel. Why? Because over there we're going to take out everything from the house to save you money. Because if not, you're going to have a lot of things, right? What? 1 second. So therefore, everything is going to become destroyed if you're going to leave it inside of the house. So therefore, he comes and he says like this: you came into the house completely, right? Yes, right? With completely. Yeah, you came into the house. Now, how did you come into the house? Backwards. No, if you come back frontwards, for sure you're tummy. You came backwards. Now, he said, the friends are going to ask me, even if you come backwards, you should still be what? Tahor. Why? It says in the Pasuk, you didn't come to the house. Right? Why didn't you come to the house? Coming to the house is face front. So he comes and he says, it's not worse than Kelim. Kelim, let's say Kelim were left behind in the house. Do they become tameh? Yes. What was the proof? I just told you. You had to take everything out of the house. If you don't take anything out of the house, even if it didn't come into the house, the fact that it was left in the house, it becomes tameh. So comes Rav and he says, it's not worse than kelim. The fact that you came into the house backwards, you're right. It's not considered that you came into the house, but you're in the house. And the fact that you're in the house, you're like a keli, just like a keli. Even if he didn't come into the house and he was left in the house, he's tameh. So to you, if you came in backwards, but your entire body is in the house, so therefore, even though you didn't come into the house, you're still going to be tameh because you're not any worse than a keli. Well, 100% makes sense, right? So he says, Tanya mihachi. We also learned it in Braita. He says, Gagin alalu. The gags of the Azara, right? Remember that the Azara in the Bet HaMikdash, they had roofs. You're not allowed to eat there on top of the roofs, the Kodesh Kodashim, right? Kodesh Kodashim, you're not allowed to do shchita there, because you have to do it in the Azara itself, because on the roofs, it wasn't mitkadesh b'kedushat Azara, meaning on the second floor was not the same holiness as the bottom floor of the actual Bet HaMikdash. V'tameh shenichnas derech hagin la'echal. So if you have a tameh that he went from the gag to the echal, he's going to be patur. Don't come to the mikdash. Torah. Again, the Torah prohibited you in the normal path, not through the gag. Meaning, if you're coming in through a back entrance, you're not going to be chayav. So same thing over here. You came through like a back entrance, so you're not going to be right chayav in such a case. We said in the 2 dots, we said in the Mishnah that this is a mitzvah taseh b'mikdash she'en chayvim aleha. What does that mean? That this mitzvah, that a person is going to be tameh b'mikdash, he's going out derech tzara and he's not going to wait, this is going to be a mitzvah taseh b'mikdash, so you're not going to be chayvim aleha. So it says the Gemara, Hechal kai de kamar zohi. Where exactly are we talking? Where's the Tana talking about that? He says, this is a mitzvah taseh in the mikdash, so you're not going to be chayav. So he says, hatam kai. The Tana of the Mishnah is over there. What does that mean? There's a Mishnah in Horayot. The Mishnah in Horayot says, "En chayavim al aseh ve'alo taseh shebamikdash," meaning the Sanhedrin are not going to be chayav to bring a par helem davar shel tzibur if they made a mistake, right? If they gave a psak by mistake on a positive commandment or a negative commandment in the Bet HaMikdash. Then maybe masham talui, they're not going to be bring an hasham talui on a positive commandment or a negative commandment in the Mikdash. Aval chayavim, but they're going to be chayavim al aseh ve'lo taseh shebenida to do with the nida. Right? So therefore, he comes and he says, and you're going to bring in Hashem Talui, right, on this case as well. Okay? So therefore, if you know about it, whether it's going to be Shogeg or not. The Kamar, and then we say, Zoi mitzvah taseh. This is a mitzvah taseh that you're not going to be chayav, apar helem davar, right? Hashem Talui. So says the Gemara, what is the case then? Right? What is the case of mitzvah taseh v'nida? What's the case of the nida? Haya meshameshat im haTorah ve'amra lo nitmeti. Imagine a person is having a relationship with his wife, and in the middle of the relations, she says, she became tmeah. Very good, very good, very good. Upiresh miyad. And he actually came out. Zelotov. What happens? Chayav. He's going to be chayav achatat. Why? Right, anak lo kibiyato, because the coming out, right, the retrieval is the hana'ah, just like going in. So itmar we was stated Abai amar mishmed Reb Chia barav. Chayav shtayim. Be'emet, you're going to be chayav twice. V'chen amar Rava, amar Shmuel bar Sheva, amar Ravuna. Gentlemen, at your age, not your shoe size. Chayav shtayim. You're going to be chayav two. Yeah? Chayav shtayim. Kada krisa. Kada aprisha. You're going to be chayav. They're coming in and they're coming out. Yeah? So havi berava, meaning you're going to be chayav also on the prisha, right? And also the fact that you came in. But at the end of the day, right, when you're mishamesh, right, until you came in. So you got the coming in and coming out. So you're going to be chayav two. So havi berava, he says, b'mai. What does that mean? What are you doing chayav two chataot? If you're going to tell me that it's samuch levesta, so then it makes sense. So bishma knisa, you're going to be chayav. Kasavar yecholeni livol ela prisha male chayev. Mezidu. Says one second. What's the case exactly? Samuch levesta means, do you know that when a woman, right, becomes an ida, the next month she has to do 3 suspicions. She has to suspect, and she's not allowed to have relations on the day of the chodesh, the same Hebrew day of the calendar. Number 2, 30 days later, which is Ona Benonit. And number 3, haflaga. What is haflaga? The intervals. If last time she saw a period of 28 days, so 28 days, 32 days, 32 days. Why? Because we suspect that whatever she saw today, it's going to be a repeat, right? Deja vu, right? So what does that mean? Right? That it's going to be the same thing that's going to happen later on. So it's 3 times that she has to suspect. So if that's samuch levesta means at the time that she could again receive her period. So therefore, what are we talking about exactly? If it's talking about a Tamid Chacham that he knows zalachot, so I understand that he's going to be chayav chatat on the knisa. Why? What's he doing having relations now? She's almost having her period. What are you doing? Right? We know that the relations brings the blood. Okay? So therefore, right, that's what it is. Right? Relations brings the blood quicker, right? Just like relations brings birth quicker, right? It's one of the natural concepts of ziruz leida, right? Of having what's it called? Of making a woman come and having birth early, right? So therefore, right, relations comes and is going to bring the blood. So what's he doing? It's a sur samuch levesta. You're not allowed to have relations samuch levesta. So I understand why he's going to be chayav on the knisa. Chayav on the knisa means he went in, he's chayav already. Why is he chayav? Because at the end of the day, he had relations. Why is he having relations? But now, right, he says, kasavar, he thought, right, he could have relations, and it's going to be before the blood is going to come out. But he says, ala prisha, why is he going to be chayav? He's on mizid. If he's mezid, if he does something purposely, does he bring a korban? No, he does it purposely. So he says, vi be'amaretz. So he says, if it's an amaretz, he says it's like a person that comes and he eats 2 pieces of chelev, right? And each one was a kazait, but he doesn't know about it in the meantime. So since he doesn't know about it in the meantime, he's only chayav 1 chatat. Meaning he went in and went out. You want to obligate him 2 chatat, 1 on the going in, 1 on the going out. But 1 second, if he's in a ma'aretz, he doesn't understand these things. So for him, it's like a guy comes, he ate 2 kezetim of chelev, and nobody told him in between what he's doing. So at the end of the day, when he's going to be chayav, how many chatat does he have to bring? Even though he ate 2 kezetim, he's only chayav 1 chatat, because there was nothing in between. He didn't know. So he's an amaretz. He doesn't know from the beginning until the end, and it's the same melacha. Remember, if it's different melachot, so then yeah, you obligate on every single one differently, but it's the same thing. So he ate 2 kezetim of the same thing. The knisa and the prisha should be the same thing then. The entering, right, and the insertion, and there's no awareness in between, and the insertion and the exertion should be the exact same thing. No. So he says ve'ela baraber v'shen samuch levesta. It's not close to a period. So then 1 second. So then what are we talking about? If it's a tamid chacham, right? Ve'lo chada lo mechayev knisa or anusu. So then 1 second. If a woman is not supposed to receive a period, imagine she just went to the mikveh a few nights ago, and now she's not supposed to, and all of a sudden he comes, and he has relations with her, and she sees blood. Why in the world are you going to be mechayev to chatat? She wasn't supposed to see. Saying that's so normal. It's so abnormal, right? You expect him to be a navi that he's going to know? It's not normal. So he says he's not going to be chayav. He's honest as anus. Anus is what? Force majeure. Meaning he's not. It's not normal. Prisha. He's going to be mezid. So he's only chayav 1 because he's separated and he wasn't supposed to separate. If it's going to be with the ma'aretz, chada ud mechayev. He should also only be chayav chada on the prisha. So how do you have two chatat then? We still don't understand how a person is going to come and have two chatats. So then the Gemara is going to answer, really, it's a tamid chacham for this, when I'm tamid chacham for that. We'll speak about Be'ezrat Hashem tomorrow.